right, good evening, Kentucky. We are live again tonight. We're coming to you from Lexington. Just left the State Chamber of Commerce dinner. The food was good. The political commentary, perhaps not. No, it was okay. A lot of that I had heard before. I'm going to make sure we're good. Everybody hear me okay that's tuned in? Give me some thumbs ups. All right, so again, just left the chamber dinner. The governor spoke first. It's a speech we've heard a lot. Look, there's been a lot of accomplishments in Kentucky over the last several months, even several years. The economic development announcements have been plentiful. You know, what I didn't hear at all, candidly, was how the legislature and others helped accomplish this. Back, all the way back to 15-16 era, we saw the legislature take some real bold initiatives. And, you know, that included reforming, getting rid of prevailing wage, right to work, the start of tax reform now. I know the Senate sent another bill on getting tax reform all the way down to 4%, which, as you all know, we support. And so, you know, what I would love to have heard is some shared credit. There's no one man, one woman that gets all this stuff done. And while Kentucky is moving forward in a lot of ways economically, there's a reason for that, and the credit is vast. The other thing I didn't hear tonight at all is that the realization that while we're getting these economic development announcements, we simply don't have the workforce that can accommodate it. And so one of the real tenets of the Keck game plan is talking about addressing that workforce through what we're calling sliding scale welfare reform. And, you know, we're going to continue to talk about that. We're proud of the fact that we've got a game plan, we've got a platform that folks can go and see. And, you know, today we got to spend some time with Leadership Kentucky, hearing of the great work that's going on across our Commonwealth. Heard from former Governor Patton, and he talked about how he felt like he was uniquely qualified because of his business experience and his time as county judge. And I couldn't help but to reflect in that moment and think, you know what, we feel the exact same way as a result of our time in the private sector, and then obviously leading Somerset through some historic growth. We're really proud of that. And you know, I felt like it was a message that a lot of folks needed to hear. It's hard to believe it's been 20 plus years since he was governor. You know, then we got to share our message with a group of students at Asbury, and then went to the chamber dinner, and now here we are. And so I appreciate those that are tuning in across all our platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I recognize it's 9 o'clock on a whatever tonight is, Thursday night, I think. And so I appreciate those that are tuning in. Yeah, make sure that you're sharing this. You know, Facebook has an odd way of stifling political content. And so I think we're facing some of that right now, where when you talk about policy, you talk about elections, especially on the conservative side, social media is going to do all that they can. But if we share it, we're going to have some organic traction. So don't just watch it. Make sure that you are hitting that share button where we can share our vision with the rest of the state. I'm going to dive right into the questions. We have a large list tonight. The first 4 or 5 all deal with medical cannabis, believe it or not. And so David S., Tim C. mentioned Senate Bill 47, which I'm not intimately familiar with. I've read a little bit about it, but I think it includes maybe making medical marijuana, putting it alongside of the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control, so there's some accountability. I need to learn more about that. Andy C. asked about educational choice, which I'll talk about, but then also medical marijuana. Bruce P. asked about it, talks about being on narcotics for a long time, dealing with chronic pain. So that's the first 4. And I'm gonna talk about that in one, actually first 4. I have come out in support of it, and you know, it's a tough thing for me to do because I know that there's many in the party that don't support it. But you know, I think it's important that I stand firm on the things that I believe in. And candidly, from you know, young children that are battling seizures to seniors, as was just mentioned, Bruce, with pain and then veterans who are dealing with all sorts of challenges. And I think that Bruce was also a veteran, and so thank you for that service, sir. I believe it should be legal. 37 states, at my last look, have legalized it for medicinal use, and I think we need to be next, giving Kentuckians a safer, less addictive, cheaper avenue than opioids and prescription drugs to deal with some of these issues. And I stand by that. And again, I recognize that it might not be popular, but before you look to another candidate, ask them where they stand and see if you get an answer at all. And I'm going to continue to give that same message. The next question comes from Taylor R. It says, why is Governor Andy Beshear not what Kentucky needs as leader of the Bluegrass? Look, here's what I'd say, Taylor, is, while the governor has accomplished some positive things, we're still nowhere near reaching our potential as a state. And, a couple things alongside of that. Again, I listened to a long speech tonight from the governor, and I've heard that speech a litany of times, but he's not sharing credit. And he'll say Team Kentucky and that we did this together, but specifically who? I don't hear him mention the Republican legislature. Candidly, I don't hear him sharing a lot of credit with the Democrats in the General Assembly. I sure don't see deflecting credit to local leaders, mayors and county judges who are helping lead the way in their own communities. And so that's a big thing. And then some of the issues, public safety. Look, Kentucky's never been more unsafe, and I think we have a message from him that's not congruent. And then if you look at our workforce crisis, we're not even talking about it. And while we have amazing people, we've got to get them back to work. Over 150,000 unfilled jobs. The unemployment rate in the state's effectively 0, and we've got to get people back to work. Take care of the working poor and stop paying people not to work. Eric K. says, I'm a proud 12-year employee of the Commonwealth. In recent years, we have noticed a downward trend in employee recruitment and retention. Candidly speaking, working for the state is not as appealing as it used to be. Just recently, we lost an elected state senator for a position in Tennessee. This is not just an issue for the current and future employees, but all citizens. We are not attracting our best and brightest and have difficulty keeping those who do a great job. When that happens, service quality declines, efficiency declines, cost effectiveness declines. What can we do to compete? How can we hire and retain the quality employees the citizens deserve? Wages is key, but it's beyond that. Culture is important, making sure we value those that are doing the work, giving them purpose. Understand that it's not just going to do a job, but allowing them to see the fruit that job will do. Certainly wages and benefits need to make sure we're competitive. But, I don't believe in the old command and control style leadership. I operate, Eric, under encourage and empower. And I think allowing folks to leverage their God-given abilities and skills and gifts, the things they're passionate about, to do their job. And then with giving them freedom, holding them accountable. We've done that in Somerset. We've transformed our culture. We've got an amazing team, and we're still rocking. And I think we can do the same thing in Frankfort. David S. says, how will you help the middle-class families of Kentucky? David, that's a fantastic question. What I'm going to tell you is the Keck game plan, which you can look at keckforkentucky.com. Take a look at it on our Facebook page. Addresses this in a holistic way. The first thing is, speeding up of tax reform. A real raise by getting to zero income tax would help. The second component is, as we grow, there will be more opportunity, both economic and quality of life. And then the third thing is, when more people are back into the workforce, I think it takes the burden off some that are working so hard to provide for so many. More people will be in the system, contributing to the system. And that level of growth solves a lot of problems. And I think that we're desperate for it in Kentucky. Jacob S. asked, what's your plan to get our supermajority of so-called Republicans to actually vote conservatively and pass bills that help us at the bottom instead of suppress us more with disgusting taxes and BS policy? So I'm just going to say this. I get asked a lot about, some of my tax policy and what it means. The policies, instead of worrying as much about how it's going to affect poor people, our policies should help produce fewer poor people and poor families. Again, welfare reform central among that. And so I don't know exactly what you speak of there, but we do need to do more. We need to do better to provide opportunity in the Commonwealth. And sometimes that might not mean passing legislation. It might mean telling our story. It might mean having a governor who can be an ambassador. It might mean working with Washington to get rid of some of these subsidies for those unwilling to work and allow it to go to those that are working their hardest. And so we'll do just that. Joey T, thanks for the question, says, as an educator, what is your plan to deal with lack of teacher pay? KSP got a $15,000 much-deserved raise. Kentucky educators didn't get anything unless their districts chose to do so. Most district raises were no more than $2,000. Prior to KSP raise, teachers' beginning pay was merely the same. What I would say is, again, go back. We have a governor who promised raises. I don't think he's delivered at that level. But until we grow, a promise is going to be empty. Einstein can't solve the math challenges we have in Kentucky with 4.5 million people when over half of them aren't paying into the system. It just doesn't work. That's why we're 48th in workforce. It's why we're 48th in fiscal stability. It's why we're in the bottom of so many important things, Joey. And so before we can make promises, we've got to execute some of these other plans. We can talk about intent. And my intent is to provide teachers with more resources, more help in the classroom from a behavioral and mental health standpoint, making sure that we provide some resources to student teachers during their internship, getting people back into that profession. But I want to be honest, and I want to be very real, that we can't just have more pie in the sky promises. The last thing I'll say, Joey, is that our state budget should reflect our real priorities, which is why I stand for early childhood education, which is why I've promoted some of these pro-family policies. Just like your personal checkbook and calendar can tell me what's important to you, so can what state government spends their money on tell you what is most important to them. Richard H. says, how do you consider yourself a true fighter for our God-given rights in the Constitution as written, or a member of the Mitch McConnell swamp? Well, Richard, I don't like putting myself into boxes or labels. What I would say is I'm absolutely a fighter for life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I think, those things are what makes this country so special, the God-given, unalienable rights. I'm somebody that can bring people together in a unique way. And I don't model myself per se after any politician, much less, a member of the establishment or the Tea Party or whatever it may be. I go back, a lot of people can tell you what they think or what they may do. I can tell you what we've done. And I always challenge folks, look at the fruit of these candidates. Look at how they've responded in times of struggle. I'll give you an example. When the world said defund the police, we doubled down and added resources to the budget alongside our city council, who invested with us, and then candidly the citizens of Somerset. And so that's what we've done. That's what we'll continue to do. Mitchell R. has a question. What about Eric Dieters? What do you think of him? Mitchell, I don't think Mr. Dieters is a big fan of mine. I don't know what I did to him. I'm a nice guy. If you're a friend, you should tell him. John R. says, I would like to know if you will push for better VA care, because right now it stinks. What other rights will you push for the citizens of the Commonwealth? By the way, I'm a veteran of the Army, and I have a lot of friends that are, and they've been wondering the same thing. Thank you. I don't care for computer answers. I think that means you don't want to email back. I hope that you see this response, John. Let me tell you again, thank you for your service in the Army. We're grateful for that. Without you being willing to volunteer, if you were old enough to be drafted, regardless, you served, and you were willing to die for a group of strangers based on an ideal, and we'll never take that for granted. We have a tremendous National Guard here in Kentucky, and we have a lot that are still willing to go serve full-time, Army, Navy, Air Force, and others. And so we need to be a state that backs the badge, not just the blue. We do all that we can for members of fire, police, EMS, our corrections officials, and then absolutely our veterans. And anything that we do for the Guard and beyond, I'll make sure that folks who have served have a seat at the table in those decisions. Stephen C. says, how would one go about getting a Keck for Kentucky shirt? Hey, love that question. We did over $1,200 of merch in our first couple of days because of people supporting our efforts. That was so humbling. Stephen, go to keckforkentucky.com and you can order one. If you get to a place where you can't or don't want to do that, shoot me a second email and we'll try to send you one. I can't do that often, but since you asked and you took the time to do it through the website, if you can't buy one, let me know and we'll get you one. Joseph S. says, what part of Kentucky are you from? Well, that one's going to be easy, my friend. I'm from Somerset. I'm honored to get to lead and serve my hometown. I'm a two-term mayor, and we've been blessed with some amazing success because of the team that we've built and the vision that we've cast. And I love my hometown. David M. says, I believe you're a Republican, but by your ads you would never know it. That bothers me. I'm a Republican and I'm proud. I know other like-minded Republicans have a problem with it also. Are you ashamed you're a Republican? I just don't understand. David, sorry for the confusion, my friend. Not ashamed at all. Been a registered Republican my whole life. A proud conservative. I don't think I have to say it on every ad. I think my actions reflect it. But I apologize that you didn't know it. But certainly nothing that I'm trying to hide or be quiet about. I think if you look at our policies and the way we've led, it'll become clear what we do. Brian H. has a couple questions. Says, been a while, support your run for governor. 2 questions. What's your stance on legalized sports betting like Indiana and Tennessee have? Let me stop you there. That's question 1. I'm for it. I've come out for it. I think it's hypocritical that we don't have it. And, again, I've said 100 years ago, you let me build a state that has, gaming or not, I'd probably say no, because I don't necessarily think it's great for society, but we have it. We have had it. There is a liberty component where it's your money. You should choose how you spend it. So, yeah, I'm for sports gaming. Second question says, I run the largest fantasy football draft outside of Vegas. Southern Bluegrass website, over 300 people attended. 14th season. The event will take place in Bowling Green. I love Bowling Green. I was wondering if you want to play fantasy football, enter a team, make a speech. Hey, if I'm still a candidate, if in August that's still possible, I'll be the nominee. I'll do my best to attend. I hate to make a hard commitment without knowing exactly what we're going to have cooking, but I appreciate the invite. David F. says, why should you be our governor? Man, I love that question, David. I'm gonna try to tie that up as quick as I can because we have so many questions tonight. 3 things. I'm unapologetically authentic. If you ask me a question just like you just did, we're telling you an answer. You're going to get a direct answer. If it's a complicated question, we might give you nuance because of that complication, but you're going to know where I stand. We do that because I love to know exactly what's important to you all, and I think you deserve to know where I stand on the issues. The second thing is, our experience is really unique in this race. I have executive experience, real executive experience as a CEO in the private sector and in government. I'm uniquely qualified, and I say that with humility because there are friends of mine that are in this race, but none of them have the requisite experience to do this job from day one, and we do. And then the third thing is vision. Our game plan has been out there since the day we filed for the world to see. We have a platform where we want to take Kentucky. And I think it's a platform that can transform the state that we love. Ronnie J. says, do you support a worker's right to join a union? Do you support legalization to limit a worker's right to unionize? Yeah, a worker has a right to join one. Do you support legislation to limit a worker's right? Depends on, look, I don't want that unionization forced, but folks do have the right to collective bargaining. And so while I think that oftentimes unions end up forgetting who they work for and they become more about the union than the people, candidly, kind of like in many ways, the teachers union. Our teachers are amazing, and so often the union is not. I don't know that they represent the teachers really well. And so, but yeah, if a company decides to do that, we still have some strong companies in the state that are unionized. Next question, Johnny J. What's your take on solar geoengineering, and will you allow a global entity to control our health? So here's a unique one, Johnny, is I'm not that familiar with what you're talking about, and I'll just say I don't know. The second part of your question, though, will you allow a global entity to control our health? The answer to that one's a pretty simple no. To any extent possible that I'll have a role as governor, absolutely not. Nicholas B. asked, what is your outlook on the pension system for firefighters and teachers? How do you feel about collective bargaining unions? A couple things there. I think we absolutely have to honor the promises that we've made, but we have to be sensitive that we'd never offer promises that we can't keep again. We have a real math problem in our pension, and I do think we've taken some really appropriate strides to resolve it. The challenge with the prior administration is, while they did their part to remedy the pension system, the people that they were trying to save the pension for, they demonized. And so I'm a big believer in, it's not just what we say, it's how we say it. And I think that, while we need to work to save public pensions, we got to do so in a fiscally responsible way that will also protect future generations. Bob H., I think that they're saying I'm talking too loud, so I'm going to try to back it down a little bit. Maybe I'm disturbing our neighbors. They're trying to go to sleep. So sorry, neighbors. I apologize. Bob H. says, if you're going to get behind sports gaming and casinos in Kentucky, then I'm with you. I voted Democrat last time because Andy was talking about it. I liked what he did during the pandemic, and I think he has a good heart. As a Republican, we need someone who's personable and we can talk to and is in favor of sports gaming. If you're in favor, then come out and say it, and you will win, and I will support you. Well, hey, Bob, thanks. I think I check a few of those boxes. I'm not going to agree with you necessarily about the pandemic. I think we made a lot of missteps, but the rest of what you mentioned, I think I can get behind. As I've said, I am for sports gaming, and I'm not scared to admit it. Ken S., we've got 4 more, and then I may peruse the live chat a little bit. Ken S. says, I just read your entire website and it didn't mention the Republican Party. I don't like that. Have the courage to tell people who you are. Well, before I'm a Republican, Ken, I'm a Christian, I'm a father, I'm a businessman, I'm a mayor. And look, I'm a proud Republican. I'm not scared to admit that. But that's not who I am. And I think the ideological labels that we've placed on party are unhealthy. I'm not scared to admit it. And I'll debate a Democrat any day of the week. But that's going to be pretty far down the list of things. If somebody's going to tell me who you are, that won't be at the top. Teresa says, will you be having any more town square meetings or meet and greets in northern Kentucky? Absolutely, Teresa. I'd love it if you'd go to our website, take a look, ask to get involved. We'll make sure you cue you in. Deanna says, what are you going to do about the $11,000 or 11,000 person teacher shortage? Well, I think we got to start by figuring out what the number actually is. I think the governor said that, and then it was told to us that it was 2,300, now 1,100, and I'm not sure he knows how many there are short. Perhaps just like the checks that were sent to Western Kentucky, where we mailed $1,000 plus to hundreds or thousands of people who actually weren't affected. It's just another example of failed leadership when we're not getting told the truth and we don't know exactly how many. I think retention and recruitment for teachers is critical, just like law enforcement officials. And, some of our holistic plans have addressed that. Aaron B. says, it was great to meet you in Marion today, which I guess now is yesterday. As a chaplain, feel free to contact me via email or phone. I'd be honored to pray for you. Hey, thanks so much. Aaron, it's great to meet you too. I think that, I had a couple approach me at a town hall, and they asked, do you have a prayer team? And I said, well, I've got a group of pastors that have helped us, and one in particular comes alongside me a lot. And my current pastor, has obviously, been willing to be kind and helpful and prayerful, but not formal. And so we're looking at adding that to the volunteer page, people that, that want to support us in prayer, along with time, talent, and treasure. And so Aaron, if you're willing to pray, others that are willing to pray, we're going to have a section soon where you can sign up and join us. The scripture says that when 2 or more join and believe, then, God will show up. And I believe that. And so, we want to be obedient to that. We want to honor him in all that we do. And so if folks want to jump on board and join us in prayer, we'd be grateful. I'm going to try to go to the chat and grab a question or two. If I see a couple, appreciate all of you that have tuned in tonight. Eric says he's looking forward to the debate. Yeah, me too, man. Really looking forward to the debates. I think it's an opportunity for all of us to be on equal footing, level playing field. And, exchange ideas. I think that in a way it's an equalizer. It doesn't matter about title or resources. It's just about who we are, what we stand for, and what we believe in. And I really look forward to that. I appreciate the one in Louisville and KSR and others that are going to be hosting those. JW asked about green energy, and I think it has to be a part of the solution. JW, one of the things that I'm proud of in Kentucky is that we're really, really blessed with a lot of natural resources and energy: coal, natural gas, oil, a huge amount of water, and that's a huge advantage. But we're becoming the EV capital of the world for manufacturing, or at least it appears so. And I think that like EV, which is now 10% of all vehicles purchased, I believe, we'll see a time where green energy really makes a surge. We're not there yet. Candidly, I don't think we're in a place where we can get close to supplying the energy demands that we have and we need. And so we need to be cognizant of that and very real about it, while continuing to push for those alternatives that can supplement. And so I'm an all of the above guy. I think as the technology gets better and we can get more and more renewables, great. I'm also a believer that we've got to reevaluate and take a peek at nuclear. And we have states all around us that are still leveraging that, and Kentucky's not. And that's something that has to be explored. Admittedly, I've got a lot of study to do on it, but it's something we're going to take a hard look at. Lorette asked a question about illegals and how I'll protect our Kentucky borders. I think it's a super fair question. It's one that a lot of politicians are talking about right now because it polls really well. And, we absolutely need the federal government to protect our southern border, and they have done an abject failure at it. We need to do all we can here, and I think that starts with my public safety plan, empowering local law enforcement officials or state police to do just that. But we also have to be very real about what the role of governor is and what we can do. And so, I'm going to talk about the things that I think we can absolutely get done. And, we're going to be a state of law and order. And, beyond that, I'm not going to make a lot of promises. This is probably the last one I'm going to answer. Eric just asked another one, which I'm happy to dive into. It says, in reference to sports gambling, do you think the horse industry is an obstacle? It's interesting. I've been told that for about over a year, and then I was talking to some folks in the General Assembly tonight, and they said that actually a lot of the big horse folks are for it. I hadn't heard that, so I'm not real sure. I hate to throw stones there. What I know is the majority of Kentuckians support it, and so with that, so do I. But it's something that I didn't need polling to tell me that I was for. We've got the lottery, we've got horse gaming, we've now got HHR. What's the difference? And so that's where I stand on it. I'm going to wrap up with just a few comments. Again, if you all have questions, then I encourage you to go to keckforkentucky.com and ask them. We're not dodging any question. I think after tonight we'll be close to 600 questions answered. And as I said, that's important, not just because you deserve to know where I stand, but it's important so that I know exactly what's important to you. And as I've traveled this state, I'm learning so much about the issues, the challenges, but also the hopes, opportunities, and dreams of fellow citizens from across our Commonwealth. And I love that. People have asked, am I tired? And I think the answer is supposed to be, yeah, I'm worn out. And look, last night, at the end of the day, 5 meetings, 5 or 6 hours in the car, I was tired. Sure, I was looking forward to going to bed. Tonight, I'll get a good night's sleep. But I get so energized by hearing from you all, by the feedback we're getting from the Keck game plan. And so, no, I'm just getting started. We're just warming up. While this race is maybe in the third quarter, we're excited about where we are after halftime and about where we're going. Continue to pray, continue to reach out and ask how you can help. Give of your time, your talent, which is your network. Help us fill in, that spider web, if you will, make it bigger and make it more full. And then, if you can support us financially, I'd be honored. Please do that. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in, for your support. I can promise you day to day I feel it. Look forward to talking to y'all soon. Thanks and God bless.